You know, it seems like yesterday that we heard of this cloud thing, but the cloud's been around for decades. And, you know, the reason why it's come into popular culture is because of Amazon Web Services back in 2006. If you can believe it, it's been that long since we've been talking about cloud, but it seems like yesterday. And do you remember some of the headlines? I probably wrote a lot of them. You know, what is the cloud? What does the cloud mean for me? What will the cloud do?
Oh, yeah.
Will the cloud kill the channel? That was a good one. But today the hype has really died down, and it's really become a reality that the channel has to face. So we thought it would be a good idea to bring some of the experts out to you, and I'm going to introduce you to them now. First is Bill Dunley from HP Canada. He's the Chief Technologist for the Enterprise Group. Please all give it up for Bill. Sean Massey, the Channel Sales Manager for StorageCraft. Now I got to tell you, StorageCraft has a very unique cloud service offering, and I believe you're growing leaps and bounds, over 200% growth in the last little while. So very interesting development there from StorageCraft. From a distribution perspective, we have Greg Myers, the Senior Vice President in Sales and Marketing, and he's definitely been involved in all the companies in terms of cloud, so he brings great perspective to this topic. Sort of new, but you know, Canon Canada is here, and Louis Papanikolaopoulos is here. He's going to be developing the channel for them, and there's a lot of this cloud and mobility strategy that's being melded together. So we have him for those types of questions. Let me throw it out to Bill first, because we were talking before we got started about working with solution providers on these new cloud models and which of them are going to make money and which of them are not going to be really do well, and how does the hybrid cloud impact all this? So, Bill, from your perspective, where do you think the money is in cloud?
I work with a lot of our partners, and it's the very same question they always ask me is, where's the money? And it starts first off with seeing that a hybrid cloud is not infrastructure as a service. It is the integration of software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service into the legacy environments of a existing company. A good example would be HP has got 30,000 people on Salesforce.com right now, and it ties back into 35 systems inside Hewlett-Packard. Now that is a hybrid cloud. It is using the services of an outside provider, whether it's application or software, platform or infrastructure, as part of your overall IT ecosystem. So where's the money? First off, the money is in the integration work. It's in the advisory work. How do I actually build that? I thought that the IDC report was fabulous because it showed that I can't remember the number, but it was some staggering number of software as a service, and that's exactly what we see, that business units are changing on the governance of IT, particularly when it comes to cloud services. HP itself has given our business units the right to choose what public cloud services they will use from a software as a service perspective. So our job as an IT group is to figure out how to make them fit into our environment, how to protect it. So when I look at the work for that right now is crying out is how do I integrate? How do I take a public cloud service and tie that back into my legacy environment or my private cloud system inside? How do I build the security gateways? Because things like Salesforce.com do not support dedicated VPN connections, so you have to put in a new security gateway like Gateway 7 to make that work. It just doesn't work any other way. So this is where a significant amount of money is. And the second part where I find a lot of money is in advice. And that's where the partners have the real upper hand. You're already viewed as advisors. The key is they're looking for advice on the art of the possible. How can I change the way I run my business using these cloud services. And so the better you can go in with 20, 30 case studies up your sleeve on how other companies are using cloud services, how they're integrating them into their, these traditional environments, that's where there's huge money. But if you've just made your career based on Patch Tuesday, that's going away, because the companies like HP are making appliances now which completely deliver completely pre-built solutions. So the money's shifting into this model. I hope that answers the question for you.
I think so. Anybody else want to weigh on that? Sean?
I mean, I would agree. I think when we look at the resellers, the VARs, the MSPs, and you compare what needs to happen with their customers, ultimately speaking, we are trying to determine what is the correct solution for that particular customer. It's the software as a service is a solution-oriented piece, and if the solution does not fit any type of business model, then it's not going to work, obviously. So you as trusted advisors, I know that might be overused over the years, as trusted advisors, your advice is still needed. I've tried to get out of supporting my family's technology for years, but they still call me, every week.
Oh, yeah.
So when we look at whether it's the software as a service, whether it's hosted in the cloud, whether it's hybrid, whether it's you have a virtual server network that you're hosting somewhere in order to service your customers or have your customers be able to do that, they're still needing to do that. Now, how do you build from that? That's where it gets a little bit more creative.
Right. Anybody else from the panel want to jump in on that? No? Okay, let's go to question number 2. I want to shoot this off to Greg, because Greg, I mean, you have this great perspective. You deal with vendor partners, you deal with channel partners, and you see what's really working out there better than anybody else. There's this sort of panaceic thought that, the cloud is going to bring across all this rich annuity revenue streams, and that's all you got to do. But really, there's a lot of heavy lifting that has to happen before that, and maybe even some financial pain for this audience. What have you seen in terms of the marketplace that has really, really hit home and been successful?
Thanks, Paulo. I would first start by saying that cloud is a very disruptive technology for the channel, right? I think Tony's point was very well said, that partners that are engaged in managed services delivery today are probably best suited and most aligned to the opportunity for delivering cloud services. So it's disruptive, but it's also pervasive, and I'm sure that each of you as consumers and as well as in your own companies are consuming applications from the cloud. It's unavoidable today, whether it's personal productivity or whether it's to assist you in improving your running performance or managing your expenses. We're all using applications in the cloud. But much of that is being delivered outside of the channel. It's not necessarily coming to market through the channel. Software as a service, as an example, I don't think that is the traditional software vendors that we have gone to market with for the last 40 years. While there's growth in cloud-based offers from vendors like Microsoft and Symantec and McAfee, I would tell you that from our lens, the predominant delivery of software from traditional vendors in the channel continues to be the enterprise license agreement. So is it beginning to crack, and is there a movement towards more cloud revenue? Absolutely. But the disruptive nature of the technology has real business implications, which is what you called out, Paulo. And in our discussions with partners, what they're grappling with really is understanding a number of different vectors, from revenue management, margin management, sales compensation management. It's very, very different being in a subscription-based business than in a business where you're delivering significant infrastructure projects that deliver in a 90-day period and may represent millions of dollars of revenue. So to transition from that cadence to a recurring revenue cadence is, I think that precipitous drop on the slide really shows just how dramatic that change is and how difficult the change is. We've observed, and I think Tony called this out as well, that traditional infrastructure partners are for the most part, very much sticking to their knitting and continuing to deliver on-premises, perhaps hybridized systems like you described, Bill. But, I mean, you just have to look at the market data as well and what the channel delivered in Canada last year. I mean, the delivery of hardware products through channel partners last year, you know, grew by just 1%. It grew by 1% to about $4.7 billion. So there's still growth in hardware sales in Canada. I would tell you that software grew at a much faster rate. We saw our software grow last year by 35%, but not as a function of cloud delivery, as a function of renewals and investment in enterprise license agreements. So there's a delineation in the marketplace. We've got traditional infrastructure providers, for the most part, still deriving their revenue and margin from the traditional sale, and we have a new breed of partners that don't have a legacy business to protect and that are able to be all in with the cloud and develop systems and delivery systems and compensation systems, margin recognition systems that are not compromised by having to serve a traditional business and a new business model. So I think that in talking to partners, that's the big inflection point right now, is how do we operationalize this and have it how do we make it accretive to our business? The appeal is there because probably the greatest benefit from cloud revenue, derived from cloud revenue for all companies, is the valuation of the business. You know, the markets love recurring revenue, and you know, it's great to have an $8 million sale today, but you don't know whether there's another one tomorrow. And a recurring revenue model, I think, delivers a more predictable financial outcome for vendors and for solution providers. I think the guys in the room and the ladies in the room would understand that their business valuation is a function of their mix of products, service revenues, managed service revenues, and cloud revenues. And the more of those services that are included in that mix, the higher the multiple on the valuation of that company. So for me, it's a big business issue. That's what we see. The technology is pervasive, it's extraordinary, it's scalable, it's cost effective. But for the people that have been in the business of selling on-premises solutions, it's a significant challenge going forward.
One of the benefits of the cloud is that, you know, there are all these access points here. From a solution provider perspective, what's the business opportunity in that mobility cloud space? How do you see it?
Well, our perspective is probably a bit different than typically. I mean, you know, you don't see Canon here that often. We're usually a hardware provider. We are getting more into software. But mobility is important, and we've really been trying to focus on bringing products to market that allow companies to leverage mobility. So, you know, when I think of it from that perspective, I think that a lot of the providers should have a global offering that they can bring to customers. So a lot of what we were hearing today, and we don't get involved in much of this stuff, so we're thinking more so, you know, downstream. When we look at the cloud, we're thinking about information, not necessarily like Salesforce, but more so documentation, information that's being uploaded and stored, and how do you access that. So from what I do see, there's a lot of focus on the devices that access the cloud to view it and maybe get information from it. But when you look at how you get that information up there, you know, I see a lot of different companies going in and providing that technology and those offerings, where maybe that's getting missed a bit from what I've seen from the report, where you've got a lot of providers that are providing the integration, the implementation, the services, but then, you know, step back down upstream in the process. How's that information getting in there, and how are people accessing it? So with mobile devices becoming more sophisticated, you know, you can see a lot more on them, you can view a lot more on them, especially with iPhone versus BlackBerry or something. The more that organizations provide a global offering and look at different technologies that touch every aspect of the cloud is going to be more important, where when they're consulting or providing services just on the implementation of the cloud, I think sometimes you can leave steps, you can leave processes out of it and almost leave yourself open to competition going in and going through a different avenue within that account. So I look at, you know, scanning technology. I mean, we've got some stuff that you might see later here where, you know, mobility, you can be out on the road, you're mobile, you can upload information to the cloud. You know, a lot of times we're talking about viewing information and accessing it versus how do you get information into it when you're remote and you're mobile. So I don't know how many companies are looking at that now, and you know, we're trying to develop technologies that allow you to do that and offer those to customers. So the more that you kind of expand your view, looking at what else you can offer, I think will help drive some of the numbers that people were missing out on, or they're seeing that there might be a decline in the business. I think last year showed a decline for most companies, right? So, you know, that's really, you know, how we would look at it. I mean, you know, we're more in the printing and scanning space, so when we look at mobility and having access, a lot of the times, you know, you're looking at the devices themselves. So we're just trying to provide what we can so that all the different providers have access to new things that they can bring to customers.
Thank you very much. Excellent panel. Let's all give it up to the panel. Bill, Greg, Sean, and Louis. Thank you very much.